the recording. So I can't see anybody or hear anybody until you accept the recording. All right, there we go. Carol figured it out.
You have to unmute and you have to turn your camera on.
That's what I just did.
I'm sorry, that's the first time I have hosted a meeting that has said that on Teams. So it must be their new thing that all of the participants have to agree to the recording.
Well, I still don't know how we get.
Sorry, I would have warned you if I would have known that that was the case.
Cameras on.
All right, Laura Anderson, I don't know if you got that
There.
notification.
Just go to your camera and turn it on, go to your mic and turn it on. And that should do it.
Yeah, I did it.
Up in the right-hand corner, camera and mic.
Okay, I only had to do one of them, I guess.
I had to do
There you
both.
go. That's good. Okay.
Wow, I've never seen that before.
It's the first time that it's ever come up, so they must have added a new feature to Teams. Maybe that's why I have my little danger signal on my
Probably.
Teams app. I don't know that they have new rules, but thank you for going through that. So welcome to the first AID Family Council meeting of 2026. Happy New Year. Anybody that is has not you have to like turn back on your camera and mic because the system somehow is asking for you to opt in, right, to allowing us to record. So because we record these for other people, you have to kind of turn those back on. But now that we have wasted a good 4 minutes of our meeting, we will get started. Laura Anderson is the principal, owner, guru, woman at Winning Systems, which is the government affairs group that we work with at AID. And they also do a lot of, yes, Sue?
You can hear me. I'm still trying to straighten this out here. So just
Okay.
carry on. There's two of me in here now.
Okay.
So just carry on. And if I need to rejoin, I'll just keep an eye out.
Okay.
There's echo.
Yes,
Yes.
because she's on twice. Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to
So I'll see
leave.
if I can get rid of one of the unmuted one of you, Sue.
I
Anyway,
tried to
Laura,
leave and come back in, but
Yeah.
that didn't work.
are you still here?
That's better. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I can hear.
I removed the other person, so the other entity of you, so that's good. All right. We really seem like we know what we're doing tonight, don't we? Back to introducing Laura Anderson, who is our government affairs specialist. She's going to talk to us tonight about the upcoming, well, it actually already started this week, legislative session at the state level and some things at the federal level to be aware of. So I will just say, take it away, Laura.
I love this meeting once a year when Lori asked me to come. It's one of my favorite things to do all year. So session has started and I am I'm bracing myself for it, but I am so honored to be able to work with Lori on policy in Springfield that affects not only you but your loved ones and everyone that we support at AID. I consider myself part of everybody, part of the team, and Lori and I have worked very closely together on policy that impacts us. And so I'm really honored to be here to talk to you about it and hear what you have to say and think about things. But Lori asked me to give you kind of a 35,000 foot overview of what we anticipate this year. And, you know, please feel free to ask questions or, I don't know, yell out, anger if that's what you need to do, because Lori and I do that for each other. So we are hearing and will get a full update from the governor on the state of the budget in February 18th to be exact. He will give a budget address to say, here's what we anticipate the revenue to be, or here's what my proposed budget is for the year. Illinois is an executive proposed budget. What that means is the governor starts the ball rolling, but the General Assembly is the appropriator, and the governor's office as the executive is the implementer of that budget. So that begins in February. I'm sure you all are aware of what challenges we have had so far as it relates to the federal government. The state is anticipating a $2 billion deficit. That is a combination of our budget, but mostly impact anticipated from the loss of revenue from the federal government. That could be Medicaid, that can be so many other types of revenue streams that that will be identified as we get closer and closer to the budget being proposed. I've been doing this 40 years. I can't believe that, but I have been doing this 40 years, and I've never seen it like this, where we are, we've always been sort of state partner with the federal government to make sure people with disabilities and people who have need, we partner with the federal government. And I've never felt so, I don't know, kicked to the curb, I guess, or frustrated with how that has been operating. Last week, there was a message that went out to community providers on certain grants, and the email went out at like 10 o'clock at night. So they didn't see it till the next morning, and they were told that all the grants stopped the day before. 48 hours later, it was returned, and they said, whoops, sorry, made a mistake. But it was a complete panic for 2 days. So that is kind of what we're trying to be prepared for moving forward, and how that will affect revenue for the state. Our job together, all of us, is to make sure that the legislators and policymakers in Illinois understand that this whole attitude of someone takes care of people with disabilities, that's not what we're worried about. We're going to worry about other things. No. This is about Medicaid. This is about SNAP. This is about funding that the people that we care about are entitled to and should be receiving. And if we don't make sure that we make a lot of noise and we bring attention to the things that we're concerned about, there's going to be a lot of people trying to get the money, that revenue that is going to be in the state budget. So it's our job to make sure that we are a priority. And I feel like we've been saying that for quite some time now, but Illinois is still in non-compliance with the Liggis court decree, which was official in 2011, and we've been in non-compliance since 2017. And the state keeps going to court and saying, but we've spent all this money. We've spent $2 billion and we're investing and we're doing great things. Let us off the hook, federal court. All is good. I gotta tell you, if the federal court wasn't watching, I think we'd be in trouble. We're already fighting for what we have. And, Lori and I talk about this a lot, but we've been underfunded in this system for decades. You know this as parents and family members, we've been underfunded. This administration has done more than any I can think of in the history of the years that I've been doing this work. That is true. But we have not finished the race yet. We're still, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And I'm not a runner, so that's a bad example for me, or that's a bad analogy for me, but the race is still going. So we have to be invested in the messaging. I think as well, what has happened, and I would say the last 2 years, is there's been some fatigue. We have fought for wage increases. We have fought for hours to be maintained. There's so many things that we've been advocating for on the statewide level for people with disabilities, that there's some fatigue in the General Assembly and there's some fatigue in the administration. But when it comes to parents and family and self-advocates, your voices will always matter. It sounds like I keep repeating myself sometimes when I say this, but you are more important than a provider. You are more important than staff. You are more important than advocates, because you are in it every day as family, and your voices mean more than ever. And I know that we can get fatigue, right? Like saying the same thing, going to the same legislators, been there, done that. It's tiring for us too, like, why are they not hearing us? We get frustrated as well. But when you're going into a year that there could be a $2 billion deficit, every dollar is gonna be fought over. And so this is about priorities, and it's also about accountability. And that's my job, right? To say to legislators, you didn't vote for what we need, and to make sure that they know that we're watching and we're paying attention, and we're, going to follow up, and we're not going to let them get away with not doing the right thing. But, we have to get there first. So there's going to be a big budget bill that happens at the end of May. And our path along that way, there's going to be different bills that Lori will bring to your attention. She and I watch bills all the time and put them in a priority list of watching. So when you see those and it says, file a witness slip as a supporter of this bill or against a bill, be for it or against it, those are important things to do, because during committee, when they present those bills, the first thing they do is say there's 1,000 proponents, which means support, or 1,000 opponents. It does get noticed. So having your advocacy, even in that way, is super important. And we try and make it as easy as possible, right? Like, Lori sends out stuff all the time that says, this is a bill we need to file a witness slip on, or this is something that you can send to your legislator, click here or make this phone call. It really is important. And I know it can get frustrating and it gets repetitive, but it really does make a difference. especially when you call the local district office. They don't like to get a lot of phone calls. It usually means the legislator is doing something they should or should not be doing. So it is important to make those calls and send those letters and emails. But there's a couple of bills that we're looking at this year. Again, we're going to be fighting for increased wages. FY27, which is what this spring that budget will be called when it's passed. It's called fiscal year 27. You always start in 26 for 27, which starts in July 1 of 2026. FY27 is the year that the administration said to the Liggis Court, we will implement 150% a minimum wage by fiscal year 27. It was supposed to be implemented quicker before now, but they said because of all of the things going on in Illinois and all of our issues, we're asking for a longer runway, a longer time period. So the court allowed that to happen. But what that means is this is the year it needs to make 150% a minimum wage. So we're going to be advocating for that to be completed, as well as maintaining the SILA hours that they cut last year. We want to make sure that they don't do any more elimination of direct service hours. And then there are going to be other bills that come up. But before I go into some of those other bills, I'm tired of hearing myself talk. Is there anything, any questions, anything that's on your mind before we go into a couple of bills?
This is Jim, are there going to
Jim?
be, hi Laura, are there going to be sort of extra special advocacy pushes at the state level, like, gatherings of parents and self-advocates? Is some extra stuff being planned this year because we know it's going to be such a tight budget and we're going to have to fight for our dollars?
Yes. Jim, we've got, I know that They Deserve More is doing one on May 5th. Lori's already said yes, so AID will be there. We had a great group last year from AID. And there are other organizations that will be having their advocacy days as well. We chose Tuesday, May 5th, because it's right at the end. Jim, that's the last push, right, into the final budget, which is supposed to be passed by May 31st. So instead of doing it too early, we decided to do a final push. But there will be other opportunities. I know Illinois Partners is doing something that is specifically focused on wages for caregivers. So, there are other organizations that are doing that. I know Lori sends those out, and they're really important to participate in those. The making of the noise, it's important.
Yep, we've all been doing that for a while, but I know this
I
is
know.
an extra important year. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. With everything that happened with SNAP and continues to happen, one of the bills that I think is super important that Lori's been a part of creating this bill, we've been working on it, is to do a Medicaid redetermination bill. They passed a similar bill in Florida. I was so smart that I didn't keep the name of it, but it was called Medicaid Redetermination Continuity of Care Act, right? Yeah. Florida was the first state to do it. What it does in Florida is it says Medicaid redetermination should not have to happen before 5 years for people with disabilities. And there is a work exemption automatically, included in it. And then there were some some other things a part of it, not just someone who is born with an intellectual or developmental disability, but should someone have a spinal cord injury or something like that. They also included those kinds of designations. What Florida passed it. They are in the process right now of going back and forth with federal CMS, who every state needs to get approval when they change their Medicaid rules in the state or Medicaid reimbursements in the state. So Florida is in that process right now. Federal CMS has not denied them yet, and they may not, but they're in the process of going back and forth, which to me is a good sign. So we sent language to be drafted in Illinois, and we should have a bill number by the beginning of February of a bill that we've created that would do the same thing in Illinois.
So I know that last year part of HB1 was that Medicaid redeterminations are now every 6 months. So this is a special carve out for our population, and it sounds from what you're saying like the feds are at least entertaining that as, and it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I mean,
Yes.
our population's diagnosis is not magically going to change.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous, right? To make them, say, hi, here again, same, and what it does is it does two things that worry me the most. One, it takes the time of the individual with the disability and the family and the staff that support them to do that. So that's time and energy and all of that for something that is, in my opinion, ridiculous. But the other thing is, it risks someone falling off the Medicaid rolls. And if you read all the stuff about, how the feds are trying to save money and blah, blah, blah. They even know that a third of the savings of Medicaid is going to be because people fall off the rolls. Well, it happens from time to time, right? Like somebody's got the wrong number, or human error does things. I've worked on a million cases over 40 years of somebody who lost their benefits. Somebody made a mistake. But you could call Social Security Administration, someone would pick up the phone, and then you'd have to work through it. Well, if no one's picking up the phone, because no one works there now, you're going to save money because it's going to take you months and months to try and get that worked out. So let's not play this game of dropping off the rolls or somebody makes a mistake or whatever. What we're saying is no redetermination before 5 years. And while we do this bill, Lori and I talked to somebody who's already working on trying to work with the federal government to get them to exempt us anyway, right? Because that's what should happen. We should not have to pass legislation state by state. This should be a federal government thing that says, whoops, we made a mistake. People with the disabilities should not have to do this. If there is a change in status of someone, then notify them. But there's all these
That's
rules
a
on the
requirement anyway.
Yes.
When you have Medicaid, right? If you have a change in your status, your income, something about your situation, you're supposed to notify the feds, and so that, or Medicaid, right? And so
it already
that
exists.
that is already required, and this bill doesn't change that. It doesn't change any of that. It just changes the time. And I will say, just really quickly, Laura, that the nuance for providers is that HR1 reduces the amount of days that you can go back and bill for someone who was ineligible when you served them, right? So at this point, we have people that fall off all the time because of those accidents that Laura talks about. And you don't find out until you bill. And so that's a month after the services have been delivered, right? Then it takes you a month or more to fix it, and then you can bill back. It usually takes about 90 days, right, to get to where, oh, they go back those 90 days and we'll pay you because you have delivered the service, right? We did not kick anyone out of Scylla. We didn't even know that they were, not eligible
Ineligible.
at that point, right?
Yeah.
So you have expended resources and pieces, and in HR1, you can only bill back 30 days. So in essence, a provider would have delivered thousands and thousands of dollars worth of service that they would not be able to recoup. And that's going to affect a provider's ability to continue to be open and do the work, right? Because we are not on a large margin of income of earning, right? We're pretty tight. And if you don't get that money for the service that you have already provided, right? There's nothing you can do about it. You've just lost all that money. And there's not that much money in the coffers for us to lose. So that's a very technically thing, right? That is in HR1, but it has a potential to make a really huge impact on the businesses, the not-for-profits that provide these services, right?
Yep. So I guess I shouldn't have assumed that everybody knew what was going on with Medicaid, but that is a priority bill for us. And we had great response. I have to say, I was really excited that Julie Morrison in the state Senate, who is from like the Lake County area, Northern Cook, she represents that area, and she has been the chair of the Disability Caucus in Springfield that is bipartisan by both chambers, bicameral, and she's been involved in the issues for a while. She literally called me the same day we sent her the request. She was very excited and she's been very enthusiastic, and she filed the language to be drafted in the Senate. We have the same bill being drafted in the House. Representative Lindsay LaPointe was very enthusiastic about also supporting it. Both of those legislators and many others in committee last session, when this started happening, and the staff from the governor's administration from Department of Human Services came to committee and said, oh boy, we got to get everybody, ready to go on this redetermination. And we were talking about SNAP at the same time. Legislators said, is it possible? Can we, as Illinois, get everybody who is designated by SSI or SSDI, anybody who's got a disability, can we just say, okay, we need to take care of these people first. They need to be taken care of, their priority, and then we can move on to the next universe of people that need to be taken care of. And the administration said, yes, we can. Well, then the legislators said, great, are you going to do that? Will you do it? And this legislation is to make sure that that actually happens, that we are prioritized, and that we get it, that our folks get taken care of, because it makes sense, but also to make sure that that's clear for everyone. So that bill is being drafted right now. There is another bill that is being carried over from last spring. We call it a zoning bill, but it's for Scylla specifically, saying that local communities, townships or counties, no one can discriminate in zoning to prohibit a Scylla being in that community. Right now, there are communities who, some of them not even in writing, as we've come to discover, have prohibitive language that says things like, 4 or more adults who aren't related can't live in a home, and so therefore a Scylla is not allowed to be in that community. They use language to make sure that the only way you can open a Scylla in a certain community is to sue the community, and it's expensive and it's a ridiculous amount of time and money. And so we're trying to pass a state law to get it on the books that says you can't violate federal law. You shouldn't have to do that, by the way. I've been told by lawyers, why do we have to do that? There's already federal law. I'm like, you're a lawyer. You sue on things all the time. I don't know why that happens, but we've been working on this for quite some time, and so hopefully we can pass that this spring, and hopefully it'll help organizations like ours not run into local prohibitive language. And we have a backup for that. There's another bill that Lori brought to my attention recently. It's House Bill 4179. The zoning bill, by the way, is House Bill 1843. We'll share these bill numbers with you. And House Bill 4179 was recently filed, which would, if passed, would allocate $10 million of GRF, which means general revenue funds, for transition grants to help organizations transition work from 14C to other work opportunities and training and support. So at this point, the way the bill was filed, we would be supportive of that. So we're going to keep an eye on that bill. It was just filed recently, and it was filed by a legislator in Southern Illinois who we don't always see eye to eye on certain issues as it relates to people with disabilities. But this one, so far, we do. So, it's so early right now on bills. The deadline for filing language was last Friday, a week ago Friday. So it takes a while for bills to get the language and then file and get a bill number. But as things come up, Lori sends updates all the time. If you have questions, please ask. We're more than happy to answer them. But when it comes time to filing a witness slip or sending a message to your legislators, just know that it seems like a lot, and I know everybody's tired of saying the same thing, but it's more important than ever because we are under attack. And it shouldn't be that way, but it feels that way. So we need to just be together and give each other the energy we all need to keep going and know that it's worth it, not just for you and your family, but for so many others. And I don't know, it's exhausting, but I'm so glad that we get to do meetings like this because this is how everybody learns what's going on. It's hard to get that information and get it straight. So there's a lot of confusing stuff out there right now. Is there any questions? Julie? Is it Julie?
One sec. Yeah.
I think you're on mute.
Okay. I'm off mute now, right?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm sure this is dead in the water, but you mentioned a bill last year about a property tax in related to family owned or Scyllas. And I had been following that and following it and following.
Yeah, I got the bills in front of me, Lori. I'm gonna look it up because I remember.
It's
Wasn't it Yang
1874.
Roar? Mm,
I
Huh?
think,
Yes.
I think it might,
1874. Yeah, Yang
Yeah.
Roar.
Yes. 1874. Yang Roar. Yes. What do I need to do?
Well, I want you to know, Julie, that this bill has uh this has been worked on for decades. Like I worked on a bill very similar about 10 years ago. So they put that bill back into rules, which means that it has to be reassigned to committee. What I would do is I would reach out to Representative Yang Roar
Okay.
and say, I hope you're gonna push to have this heard again in committee. This is somewhat similar to House Bill 1843 in that local government doesn't like it, but more importantly, this bill, local school districts don't like it. They claim that it loses money of local property taxes. It's just not, there aren't that many that
I was
would
gonna say,
impact
it's
the
such a
bottom line.
small. Yeah.
Yes,
It's such a small amount.
yes. So to me, it's a ridiculous argument, but I think we just need to keep pushing. Sometimes it takes years to pass what seems like common sense language and a common sense bill. But this is one that would incentivize families and organizations to work together. You know, I know the organizations want to do that. So, I mean, we just got to keep pushing the sponsor to keep pushing the leadership to get it called in committee.
Thank you.
Yep. And there are other legislators that are co-sponsors on that bill, by the way. Blair Sherlock, who's out of Villa Park, Yang Roar's out of Naperville and sort of that area over there. Blair Sherlock is out of Villa Park. Stava Murray, she's been very active. Jimenez and Ness, they're all part of the Women's Caucus.
Okay.
I mean, you know, Lori and I get the opportunity to talk to the Women's Caucus from time to time. They're very influential. They've got a lot of votes that they could wield a great deal of power.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's my new job.
yeah, and I mean, this is again, very beginning of session. So, you know, we're just kind of gearing up, you know, and getting you revved up, and we'll continue to have updates on bills as they get added because you know, nothing's really been assigned yet. Like Laura said, last Friday was the deadline for those to be submitted to LRB, which stands for the Legislative Research Bureau. Is that right?
Reference Bureau.
Reference Bureau. I was close. They you know, are hardworking, and those will start to be getting assigned, and we'll know more about them then, because you know, we only know about the bills that like the different entities that we're working with are working. I mean they deserve more has some bills right around DSP wages as they do every year, right? And then there are other entities that maybe we're not involved with, but we might be in tandem or have the same interests, right, or similar interests, right, that we'll learn about those bills as they keep coming. So we'll continue to get that information out. Doug Maluski, who does a lot of our, you know, media stuff, will put those things in either alerts that are about acting on those bills or within our Friday focus to alert you to those new bills that are coming online. And then we do, if you don't follow our social media, you know, they put more immediate things on there quickly, so we will have pieces going there. So I think that it will be very good.
The Friday Focus is a good opportunity to see what's coming the next week. I know from time to time, I'll send an update to Lori of what bills are posted for the following week. So if any of these bills are posted to be heard in committee, we could put that on a Friday Focus, so that you're
Okay.
sort of thinking about it for the next week.
Laura, is there
Can I
any?
just ask
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask a quick question. If for May 5th, because I wasn't able to go last year, so is that a bus, a caravan? How's that all work?
So last year, the way that we did some AID vehicle, a van, because they had a breakdown on the way and had to have another van come and trade them out. But they had quite an adventure. But there were some parents that went with that might have driven separately. I can speak English, but and met there, and then went around with people. But I just sent that information about that day to leadership, right? To say, hey, we should get a plan in. So last time it was a more like we didn't know the date this far ahead of time, right, last year, and so we were more reactive, and so probably had less opportunity for people to participate in that. So we'll look at how that might work, and could certainly look at taking a couple of our vans if people have the interest, right, and that. So it turned out really good. People put together really good our clients that we support put together really good materials that they gave out, and they worked on that with staff supporting them before they went, and put together the 5 things that they wanted in their lives and how they wanted that to look. And so it was really good. So
And we got a lot of press coverage last year.
Yeah.
It was super fun, and it was kind of it was very organic what happened. The whole group said, okay, I want to go over to the Capitol and be in the rotunda. So I led the group underneath. We went from the Stratton building, which is next door to the Capitol, and we went underneath because the weather was kind of yucky. And there was a young woman, I still have her on my phone, who kept saying 1, 2, 3, 4, we deserve more. They were so loud that people came from all over the Capitol to see what was going on. And the press came from the lower level to see what was going on. And we were the loudest group in a long time. And they interviewed individual people. We were on the local news. It was really fun. This year, it's going to be in the Hall of Flags, Lori. I didn't know if you noticed that, but and to get the Hall of Flags, by the way, hello, I'm a taxpayer. This was ridiculous. But anyway, we got the Hall of Flags, which is next door in the Howlett building, but there's an underground tunnel so that if there is weather, you're protected, and it's very accessible. So I'm really excited about where we'll all be, because we can all fit and people can eat and bring their lunch, and we can all be in one place. And that was our objective, to make it so much easier for everybody this year. So we had over 200 people show up. We thought if we could have 100, it would be like a big thing. We had 213, I think. It was amazing. And everybody just had a great time being together and enjoying each other and meeting people from other organizations. It was pretty inspiring. It was fun.
So keep an eye out, Julie. Like I said, I just sent that to Stephanie, Sam, Kim, Courtney and Andrea, across the kind of two departments that work with folks with IDD. And I know that they will be jumping on it and working on it. It was great. We did have a couple, at least two parents, I think, that attended, and then the other clients that attended were supported by AID staff. So it was good. They had a good time. I found them like it was like this mad rush, about people everywhere, and I was there, but I wasn't with them. And then we like converged, and we got to take a picture really quick, and I guess say, "Yay, keep going," because they had their own meetings. I had my own meetings. It was really cool, and there was a very high energy in the building at that time. You could really feel it, so it was exciting.
Yeah. That's great.
Jim, you were
Jimmy?
gonna.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask Laura, and Laura, you can chime in too. $2 billion hole in the budget is huge. What is the scuttlebutt, sort of behind the scenes about where those cuts are going to come from? I know that last year there were reports that the governor had told every division, or department to plan on 4 or 5% cuts. So far, I know, Lori, those haven't been dictated down to the agency level, but what are you hearing sort of underground about where that $2 billion are going to be cut from?
Well, I reported back to Lori last week that I had a meeting with Robin Gable. She is the majority leader in the House. She is the one who negotiates the House majority part of the budget. And on the Senate side, it's LG Sims, who's the senator from there. He's from Chicago, but he negotiates the budget for the Senate majority. So Robin and I met last week, and I felt it was encouraging that she said they are going to push really hard to make sure that Medicaid rates all stay the same. She admits that that's a low bar, but in light of everything that's anticipated, keeping Medicaid rates the same is a good place to start, right? But I sent Lori a text today. There was a late thing in the Tribune saying they found $500 million in the budget. So I think we have to wait and see what the governor says on February 18th when he presents the budget, and we'll get a better sense of how they think those cuts will look. When they have suggested doing an across the board percentage cut, that has never, it happened maybe once 25 years ago when I was first doing this work. It's never really happened since. And do you remember, Lori, it was like in 2018, right? They were going to do a 15% across the board, and everybody went bananas. And I remember talking to Robin Gable about that. I was in her office and she was, I don't know, doing something. And I was like, you can't, 15% out of human services is way more impactful and dramatic than 15% in a small agency, to be named at a different time. I don't know. Where human services is the biggest part of our budget, cutting 15% across the board was deadly. So they've never really done that, but to do it surgically is also very hard. So I think we need to wait. I'm not sure I answered that question. What do you think, Lori?
I mean, the things that I don't know if you remember last year they talked about there being a shortage, right? And then it didn't materialize, right? Somehow they found additional funds and got more taxes, real estate taxes in, right? And sales tax. So, I don't know, they've, put a hiatus on some of the sales tax, but like not the big sales tax that comes in, right? They did food and that, but, I think, I always like, knowing the people at the governor's office of management and budget, who, never agree with, always say we have way less money than there is. It just kind of seems to be, I mean, they're finance people. They're supposed to do that, right? They're supposed to say, hey, we can't keep spending a lot of money. We got to save money. We got to pay the into the rainy day fund. We got to pay the pensions, all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm not quite bought into the $2.2 billion uh, deficit. I think some of that is probably ARPA money, right? That was money that wasn't in the budget in the first place before the all the ARPA money went out through COVID. And so you shouldn't have started any programs from that. You should have put that into, property and one-time expenses, which they mostly did. So, it might be kind of disingenuous to say that's a cut or less money that you have whenever,
Right.
like, yes, technically it is less money that you have from the feds, but it wasn't money that was coming to run everyday programs. It was going to build affordable
Like
housing. It
capital,
was,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
it was going to do, it was building all the roads and bridges and all the stuff that we put money into, right? I mean, that money was never in the budget in the first place, right? Because it didn't exist. So I think there's some of that. But we'll have to see how things shake out. So that's not a very good answer, but it's
Yeah,
the way the way of politics, right?
yeah.
yeah.
Help me understand how it works if you can. Like when the state faces a big budget shortfall, do they have like a list of priorities that they say, hey, people first, we got to take care of people. And if the bridges have to wait another year, then we wait another year. Like, how does the state prioritize what it's going to fund and what it's really gonna hit hard with cuts?
I mean, kind of, I'll start and you fix anything I say wrong, Laura, but, having worked at the state manages its budget just like AID manages our budget. And we have each one of our they have each one of their departments come in with their ask, right, for what they want in the budget. And the, Governor's Office of Management and Budget says, no, like we can't put any more money here. You can't ask for an increase. We're gonna reduce this there. I would not say that there is any prioritization of people over property because, bridges are projects are run by unions who have a big sway, and so you have to keep those folks pacified as well, right? You don't want to, you want to try to keep it even keel across all of your different constituency groups. So, but it really does work like for example, we were talking about like IDHS is not going to request underneath the Division of Developmental Disabilities that there is a rate increase for DSPs, right? They're not going to put that in their budget. They're going to wait for advocates to be able to do that because the governor's office is trying to manage those budget asks right across all of their departments. But, they have multiple priorities, right, that they have to balance. And I would not say that I was ever aware of any choice when it comes to, what you said before, people over, Capitol building, right?
And Jim, I think it would be great if they said, okay, in times like this is what we prioritize. This gets a hold. But I got to say, I've only worked in two places, Illinois and Washington, and there's no place like Illinois when it comes to stuff like this. But I the simple answer when you ask the question in my head, the difference between what gets cut and what doesn't get cut is related to how much noise do you make. You know, when they've talked in the past about doing a straight across the board, or, you know, that article that I referenced earlier that I sent to Lori about finding $500 million. If you read that article, they say, well, we found $500 million because we told people to hold back 4%. And you may or may not remember that, but at the end of session, the governor said, well, I'm going to have everybody, or it was right after the budget was passed. He said, I'm going to have everybody hold back 4% of the budget that was appropriated just in case, you know, something happens. Well, people went crazy and said, you're not going to hold back 4%. What does that mean? Some will and some won't. So I'm not really sure where the 500 million came from. So I think it really is about making noise and making us a priority, because it's worked in the past, Jim. If people say you can't cut this program or you can't cut this service, and there's enough noise and it gets attention, it really does work. So I think we have to make us a priority.
Which
The
brings
only
us full circle to your advocacy pitch at the beginning. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But that is how it works. You
Yep,
know,
it is.
it's and I think I said earlier about the Women's Caucus. I gotta say, the Women's Caucus has what, 31 legislators, I think, something like that. I have a list somewhere, and that's a lot of votes when you're talking about passing a budget or not passing a budget, right? So back when I worked for the General Assembly, there weren't that many small groups, a progressive caucus, the Latino caucus, there wasn't really a women's caucus back then 20 years ago when I was working in the General Assembly. But you always had to worry about somebody saying, I've got 13 votes and I'm holding them, and we're not going to pass the budget unless you give us what we want, right? It's like,
Yeah.
We've all seen those movies. But it really does work like that. So as an advocacy, we have worked very closely with the Women's Caucus. Yeah. Lori and I talk to Representative Suzanne Ness all the time, or Senator Castro, or they're part of the Women's Caucus. Yeah. And I don't know if they realize it completely, how much power they have, but they do have a lot of power.
And I will have to say they've stopped the budget in a couple of years recently,
at least twice,
to ensure that DSP rate increases were in the budget. Like literally stop the budget. Like
it was 2 years ago when we got our largest yet. It was $2.50 at the end of it's $2.50 at the end of session. They tried to pass the bill the night before, and the women stopped it, and everything came to a halt. And that's why we got the wage increase. It's kind of cool when that happens, I gotta say. I mean, sometimes you get some really bad phone calls that tell you to stop doing that. But it's a really cool thing to watch advocacy in action when you can stop the budget vote. So I forgot about that, Lori. That was a good one.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was kind of shocking. I don't think they even realized that they could do that, right? But they did. They shut it down. And people were like, "Oh, what? Wait a minute! Like they're not going to vote on this bill? What do you mean?" And it was literally at the the 9th hour or whatever the saying is, right?
Yep.
The very last in, and they got it in.
Yep.
When everybody was saying you can't get that amount of money, right? So it was cool.
Yeah.
Well, if we don't have any more questions, I will dismiss us or say good night to everyone and tell you to be warm and safe
Yes.
tomorrow and make good choices about if you go outside or not, and take care of your animals and wear your hat and gloves if you do go out. And our
Don't
next
slip
meeting,
on ice.
right?
Don't-
Be
yeah,
careful.
right.
So February 26th is our next family council meeting at 7 p.m. Just as a reminder, the link is on the website, and that is always the active link. You can go into, I think you go into like about AID, and then it, has a drop down. It has all the things about, the different departments and all that. And then at the bottom, it has family council. You click on family council and it's on that page where the schedule is at. And I think it's in the schedule itself, the link, but that is the same link. We're trying to get over the difficulties we had with our electronic invites last year, and make it so that Kathy Simpson doesn't get everybody's emails all the time.
And that seems to have worked pretty well tonight. And, before we go, Laura and Lori, I want to say how grateful I am personally, and we as a family group are, for your strong leadership in this state. So thank you.
Thank you.
You for
It's
giving us
such an
the
honor. Like I
opportunity to do that.
said at the beginning, first of all, I love being able to work with Lori because we enjoy what we're doing, but it's such an honor to, I haven't met some of your kids or, your family members, but just it allows me to sleep a little better each night knowing that, we work so hard with each other. Truly.
We are grateful. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you all as well. And we will each fight a moment when the other can't, and swap in and out, right? Tag team as our souls and self-care allows us, right? And I believe that we're gonna get through these chaotic and difficult times.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Bye.
Good
Laura.
night, everyone.
Bye. Good night.